The world knows the dictator, the war leader, the architect of unimaginable destruction. But who was the private man behind the image? Adolf Hitler remains one of the most studied figures in modern history. Yet much of what people think they know was shaped by propaganda, carefully constructed myths designed to project strength, destiny, infallibility, and a caricature of evil. We examine documented, lesser-known aspects of his personal life to better understand how myth differs from reality. Born in Austria in 1889, Hitler grew up under a strict and often harsh father, Alois, and a deeply affectionate mother, Clara. Historical accounts describe a household marked by discipline and volatility. His father expected obedience and pushed him toward a civil service career, something young Adolf resisted intensely. After his father's death, and later his mother's passing from cancer, he experienced profound instability. Some historians argue these early losses and frustrations shaped his personality, particularly his sensitivity to rejection and authority. Before politics, Hitler wanted to be an artist. He applied to the Vienna Academy of Fine Arts and was rejected twice. Admissions reviewers reportedly noted that his architectural sketches showed promise, but his human figures lacked skill. After these rejections, he drifted, living in hostels and selling small paintings. This period, isolated, resentful, and financially unstable, would later become central to how he framed his personal narrative. In Vienna, he lived modestly. It was during these years that his worldview hardened. Surrounded by nationalist rhetoric and radical political ideas, he absorbed themes that would later define his ideology. Importantly, this was not yet the powerful leader of Germany. This was a struggling young man searching for meaning and identity. Most young people go through a phase of discovery, and for Adolf Hitler, it became politics. He joined local politics within the National Socialist Party, which later became the Nazi Party. His political power grew with his oratory skills and bold acts. As he became famous, his public persona became carefully controlled. He was presented as disciplined, tireless, and almost superhuman. Privately, accounts from staff and inner circle members describe someone far less imposing, long-winded in conversation, socially awkward at times, and prone to dramatic monologues during meals. The contrast between public performance and private behavior was striking. A reserved man in private, often deep in thought, who enjoyed nature, and publicly a passionate and aggressively powerful speaker. Hitler was intensely concerned about his health. He followed a vegetarian diet later in life, reportedly for both ethical and digestive reasons. He later would pass the 1933 Reich Animal Protection Act. This act banned animal testing, boiling live lobster, and gave other protections to animals. He also feared being poisoned and had food tasters test his meals. He suffered from chronic digestive issues and relied heavily on medications prescribed by his personal physician. These health anxieties grew more pronounced over time. It is unknown if these issues were at all caused by his experiences in World War I, where he suffered mustard gas attack and also PTSD. Hitler was also heavily medicated. His personal doctor administered a wide array of treatments, including stimulants and hormone-based substances. These included methamphetamine and steroids. Over the years, this dependency reportedly increased. By the later stages of World War II, observers noted trembling hands and declining physical stability. He is seen in videos with an extremely shaking hand, often tucked in his coat to hide it. Some debate if he had early Parkinson's or not. His sleep became extreme at this time as well, including naps or sleeping up to 12 or 14 hours at a time. Whether these substances significantly affected his decision-making remains debated among historians, but his reliance on medical intervention is well documented. Hitler expressed strong affection for animals, especially his German shepherd, who he was seen with regularly at his mountain retreat. He portrayed himself as compassionate toward pets and supportive of animal welfare laws. This was a sharp contrast. Personal tenderness toward animals alongside policies of mass violence remains one of the most unsettling contradictions of his character. A man who made it against the law to boil a lobster also engaged in a war with death the world had never seen before or after. For years, he had a romantic relationship with Eva Braun, and this was kept largely out of public view. Eva Braun lived much of her life in his shadow, primarily at the Berghof retreat in the Bavarian Alps. Publicly, Hitler cultivated the image of a leader married to Germany. Privately, he maintained a domestic life that was carefully hidden. They married only in the final hours of his life, while in a Berlin bunker. As the Soviet troops closed in and the end was sure to come, he finally married. This marriage was short-lived, as they are reported to have killed themselves shortly after. This remains a huge mystery as the skull recovered, and officially the evidence of his death was only recently tested. It turns out not to be the skull of Adolf Hitler, and his final moments including his death remain unknown. At his mountain residence, which he frequently went to, daily life could appear almost ordinary. Guests described tea gatherings, film viewings, and extended conversations. Hitler often stayed up late into the night and woke late in the morning. He enjoyed going on walks and eating chocolate there. Yet even here, security was tight, and conversations often returned to politics and ideology, subjects he had an overwhelming passion for. The setting felt peaceful, but the decisions made there shaped the lives of millions and hundreds of millions for generations to come. Over time, myths emerged portraying Hitler as obsessed with the occult or mystical destiny. While elements of symbolism and myth-making existed within Nazi culture, historians caution that many occult claims are exaggerated. The reality appears less mystical and more calculated, propaganda used to project inevitability and power. Those within his inner circle described someone who dominated conversations, disliked contradiction, and could become visibly agitated when challenged. He reportedly avoided small talk and preferred long monologues about architecture, art, or politics. The charismatic public speaker was, in private settings, often rigid and controlling, a trait that seems to be very common among even today's country leaders. In April 1945, Soviet forces closed in on Berlin. Inside a Berlin bunker, witnesses described a physically diminished man, shaking, pale, and increasingly detached from reality. On April 30th, 1945, he married Eva Braun. The following day, they were reported to have committed suicide, and their bodies burnt by soldiers as a final order to hide the identity. As stated earlier, those remains found turned out not to be those of Adolf Hitler. Much like his life, the details of his death may remain a mystery to history forever. The myth ended not in triumph, but in collapse. Understanding the private life of Adolf Hitler does not humanize the war he helped create or the crimes it caused. It reveals something more unsettling. History's most destructive figures are not myths. They are human beings shaped by insecurity, ideology, circumstance, and choice. Propaganda creates legends. Critical study dismantles them. The lesson is not fascination, it is vigilance. Because when myth replaces scrutiny, history becomes vulnerable to repetition. We must learn from the past instead of hiding from it.